Welcome back to yet another episode of the Change in Narrative podcast. Today, I am here with my amazing guest, Frederica Brooksworth, who is the Executive Director of CIAFE. Frederica, hi, and thank you so much for joining us today. Frederica, I would like for you to tell us more about yourself and what you do and what CIAFE is about.
Yeah, sure. So thank you for having me here on the podcast. Excited to be with you today. So I'm a British Ghanaian academic, researcher, author, editor, and strategist. So I would say that my mission is, I know I do a lot, but my mission really is about creating impactful solutions which future-proofs the global fashion industry and its people through education, research, and strategy. So that's really my main focus. So CIAFE stands for the Council for International African Fashion Education, and it's a non-profit organization dedicated to advancing the development of fashion education and research in Africa and also the diaspora. And again, we also work hard to decolonize the curriculum within institutions in the global north, so like in Europe, North America, and so forth. So yeah, that's pretty much myself, and then also what I do at CIAFE.
That's amazing. I love how the focus is on fashion education and research. Because I mean, we do have a ton of fashion schools on the continent. However, for some reason, most people tend to go outside of the continent to seek education in fashion. What would you say is the reason why?
I think it's a number of different things. So I would mainly first maybe start with a lack of awareness. So many people are unaware of the different types of fashion schools that are out there and the high standards as well. So, I mean, when you think about fashion schools in the West, where most people they want to go to Central St. Martin's or the London College of Fashion, or they want to go to Parsons or FIT. When you ask people, okay, well, why do you want to go there? Oh, because I'm aware of the alumni, or I've been following them. If you see their marketing, so they are aware because they've been able to see things online or in publications, right? Now, when you think about schools in Africa, they don't necessarily have that visibility where people are fully aware of what it is that they offer as well. So I would say the lack of marketing and exposure is what I would say prevents people from wanting to apply to actually study on the continent as well. Also trying to figure out things such as the opportunities. So if they do go to school on the continent, for a lot of people, and this isn't me just making the assumptions, these are the conversations that I have with academics and also with students and also people who have actually studied abroad. They always say, well, unfortunately, I won't be able to get the resources or the internship opportunities or the networks and so forth. So it's a number of things, from the resources, the curriculum, the work experience opportunities, the academics teaching them. So it's a number of different things that really adds to people's decisions as to why they choose not to study on the continent. But I think we're starting to actually see a shift and a change, where now we're starting to see more institutions really spending time and investing in their marketing, investing in their outreach, investing in things such as open days, investing in things such as resources within, their academics as well. So we're starting to see a lot more people realizing that, oh, actually, I can go and study in West Africa, or I can go and study in South Africa and so forth. And again, a platform like CIAFE has really also opened people's minds to, figuring out, okay, do you know what, there actually is an opportunity for me to study here. And, we're working with these institutions to really improve their standards as well.
I mean, yeah, that's truly amazing, because I do know that on the CIAFE website, which I think I really love, is you have done well to actually put together certain resources. For instance, there's an extensive list of universities and institutions whereby people can actually apply to go to fashion school and to study fashion. Another thing I wanted to ask you is, I know CF, when people hear fashion, actually, people think that fashion is just fashion design. But then one thing that I think CF is doing that is really great is actually trying to expose people to more fields in fashion. Can you please talk a little bit about
Yeah,
that?
I mean, again, like whenever people think fashion, they think, oh, like making clothes. And even when they think about making clothes, they think about just women's wear, right? People just think it's like just about making dresses and so forth.
Yeah.
And it's not, it's much more than that. I mean, my background isn't in fashion design. My background's in fashion marketing and entrepreneurship. So that's my background. I come from the business side of the fashion industry. And the truth is, without having that business knowledge, it will be very difficult for you to actually navigate the space, or for the industry to actually, for there to actually be an industry. There wouldn't be an industry without the business aspect of it. I mean, I was even just watching
Right.
something just yesterday, and it was like it's like a series on Top Shop. So just talking about the story of Top Shop, and I think it's leading into the fall essentially, and why the business no longer exists. And it was talking about in the early 90s where we saw a lot of women's wear, fashion brands, and just fashion companies in general. Why they did very well is because they had business people behind it. So they didn't have founders that came from a fashion background. They were literally people like accountants, marketeers, economists, and so forth. So it's really important to understand that you need to be like very well versed when it comes to fashion knowledge, and also encompass information that has to do with the business side of the fashion industry. So my thing is that I know a lot of people often say, okay, I've got the skills, I can design, but I struggle to sell. Or I can design, but then I don't know how
Right.
to put myself forward for a role, for instance, and how to navigate the space. So for
Definitely.
me, when I was starting CF through the research, I really made sure that we were not just focusing on just design, but it was really looking at closing the skills gap, right? And looking at different aspects. So things such as technology, again, looking at the business aspect. I mean, we do things like language classes, which has actually been very, very amazing. And like we've just wrapped up the Italian language class.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
and like the
amazing.
feedback's been so good. Like yesterday, I was reading a comment on LinkedIn. Someone tagged me in it, and they were
Mhm.
saying that not only have they learned the Italian language and like the basics, but they've also learned about the history of Italian fashion, and also
Yeah,
the history of like the Afro-Italian community as well. So again, it's
that's
yeah. So
amazing.
through this, people are being educated on different areas, and we're realizing that there is enough out there when it comes to design. Of course, there is a lot more that can be done in design, such as things like quality control, and maybe looking into digital design and so forth. But for us right now, what we do is that we're looking at all the other areas that essentially have been left out, and are often left out as well.
That's amazing. That's really amazing. So, what do you think the institutions and universities on the continent, how do you think they can contribute to actually um, letting students or like people who want to get into fashion, but not essentially fashion design, be aware of these other fields and opportunities in
I
fashion?
would say it's having a balanced curriculum, right? So it's really important to have a balanced curriculum, and to also be able to give students the opportunity for them to learn about the fashion industry in general, right? And then also with
Yeah,
that, it's also a case of resources, because resources are very important. I mean, yes, when you go to school, I mean, in a week, you're probably at, school for maybe, let's say, 10 hours a week, right? And, there are so
yeah,
many hours in a week. So maybe let's say you're there 10 hours a week. Some people literally go to school for maybe even about just 5 hours a week. That's the truth. So outside of that, students need to be kept up to date, and to need to enhance their knowledge through resources, right? So there needs to be, again, a balanced
right.
level of resources. So it's not just about fashion design and like making clothes, but also people should be learning about things such as merchandising, understanding things to do with pricing and so forth. Because if you're training people to be designers, they still need to know how to sell their products, right? They still need to know how to pitch. They still need to know merchandising. They still need to be able to understand things such as marketing as well. Because I always say that you won't be doing everything in the business. However, it is important for you to have a basic understanding about the
Yeah,
business. So,
I
yes.
definitely think you are right. So let's talk about some of the initiatives that CF has, because I know like you guys are really doing some amazing things. I know you're also very keen on helping people on the continent to get some of these opportunities. And most importantly, with regards to the curriculum, I know you're very big on having African, say, writers and researchers and all of that. I know you recently have, I think, is it a partnership with?
Bloomsbury, yeah.
Yes, yes. So, like, can you speak more on that and how, like, people can get involved, you know?
Yeah, sure. So, where do I start now with our initiative? So, maybe what I'll do is touch on Bloomsbury last, actually. So,
Sure,
yeah, so
that's
we do something
okay.
called book conversations. So, with book conversations, the aim of that is to essentially highlight not just books that are written about people from an African background or written on the topic of African fashion, but it's really just actually bringing attention and awareness to just fashion literature and research that is out there for people to be
Okay.
able to use. So what we do is that we invite different authors to come and speak, to talk about the book, to talk about the writing process, the research process, how they also even got a book deal as well, because that's also one thing that a lot of people are interested in. How does someone get a book deal? So it's all of those different things. We have sustainability seminars. So we have these weekly seminars where we have different speakers coming to speak on different topics in and around sustainability, which is also really quite exciting. We have our tech skills workshop. So we have different workshops on different topics. Sometimes it's theory, sometimes it's practical. We cover everything from augmented reality to AI. We've also done since we launched last year, we've had 2 intakes of a coding course as well with Life is Tech. So people have learned how to code and develop websites as well, which has actually been quite exciting. Um,
That's really
yeah,
amazing.
it's honestly really fun. Trying to think, I feel like there's so much. Oh, we have our fellowship, which is one of my favorite initiatives. So we have
Okay.
fellows from pretty much, I would actually say like global actually, because we have like a fellow who's based in South America. We have fellows based in Asia, in Europe, and then also on the continent as well, because you have people from African descent in the diaspora. And yeah, that's amazing.
Mhm.
That's running for, I think we're like halfway through now. That's running for a year, which is quite exciting. And that's really, so it's called the African Young Fashion Leaders Fellowship. So it's really focusing on how do we
Okay.
build leaders within the fashion industry and not just looking at it from a viewpoint of just design as well. Um, Gosh, like I'm just trying to think. Like there's quite a lot. Again, we have
You guys are busy and I
yeah,
love
we have a
it.
number of different things, but yeah, so we recently secured a partnership with Bloomsbury, so specifically Bloomsbury Fashion Business Cases. So that's a division under Bloomsbury Publishing where they have these fashion business cases which are developed for like institutions, students, and also professionals to use to help either they can use it within their classes. It could be used as an assignment, teaching material, you name it. You might have professionals using it as a part of work where maybe they're working on their team to do some problem solving or to think about, you know, how they kind of keep on top of their own strategy and so forth. So, you know, again, one thing that we've been speaking about a lot at CF and our mission is to decolonize the curriculum and also close the skills gap, but give people more opportunities in this space. So what we've done is that I've now come on board as the regional editor for Africa, and we're encouraging Africans and diasporans to essentially write cases on different things in fashion that are related to brands, African brands and diaspora brands as well, which is amazing because then these cases are now going to be used by educators, students, and businesses literally globally, which is amazing. Yeah.
That's
Which hasn't
really
been done. So
amazing.
now you're going to have, I know, so you're going to have like
Exactly.
students maybe in a classroom in Manchester in England learning about a fashion brand in Ghana, for instance, that they may have had no clue about. So it's so exciting to really see that. Like we've got cases going now. We've got quite a lot actually from a community of Afro-Brazilians, which is super, super, super exciting because it
That sounds really
really is, because I'm
interesting.
also learning myself about, the Afro-Brazilian fashion industry. So it's super exciting to kind of see everything come together. So that's like what we're doing now with Bloomsbury, and we'll definitely be working on a lot more things in the future as well.
That's really amazing. So how do people get to contribute? Say if I wanted to be a part of this, if I wanted to like put out a case, like how, or like put together like a case study, let me say.
Yeah, so it's literally just simply through reaching out. So you can just send an email to contact at CIAFE, so CIAFE.org. Again, you can, contact us. You can DM us on IG. You can go onto our website and then fill out a contacts form. So anyway, you reach out to us, someone will definitely be in touch with you because we are looking for more writers.
Yeah, that's amazing. I know you did touch a little bit about decolonizing the fashion curriculum, but I would like us to talk a little bit more about that. So, I mean, for people who don't necessarily understand what that means. So when you actually say decolonizing the fashion curriculum, what exactly do you mean
Yeah,
by
so
that?
essentially, when it comes to decolonizing, I think I might just probably break it down in more simpler terms because I know sometimes it can just sound so
Yeah, it sounds like a
yeah,
really heavy
exactly. So
statement.
essentially, it's all about, acknowledging and then challenging the ways that colonialism has had an impact on like knowledge and learning. So again, it's all about looking at, okay, so when we talk about decolonizing the curriculum from a CF perspective, what we're looking at is saying, well, when you look at fashion education now, it's very much, it has a white face, right? You're learning about brands from
Right.
Paris, Italy, London, New York, but you're rarely learning about
Yeah.
brands in Africa. When we talk about the history of fashion, you will never hear anything about how the African fashion industry has had an impact on the history of fashion. And there are so many things that have come from Africa, which, and it's not told
Definitely.
in
Yeah.
the curriculum. And I think it's sometimes very misleading as well. So it's so important that we actually have a fair, balanced curriculum so that when we're talking about, because we always say that fashion is a global industry, but it can't be a global
Mm-hmm.
industry if we're not including all other areas of the fashion of the fashion industry. We shouldn't be segregating certain continents to, yeah, exactly. Because then
Definitely.
again, we're not being fair to our students, and we're not being
We're not being
exactly. We're not
inclusive.
being inclusive. We're not being fair and providing them with the necessary knowledge that they need in order to thrive in this industry. And also, it poses a
Yeah.
really serious threat, which indicates that
Mm-hmm.
if you are Black or if you are African, then you are not knowledgeable enough to teach or work in the fashion industry because we don't see anything
Right.
from like your background in our curriculum. So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people have it in your mind that should you really be writing books? Because, what can you teach us? That's like what people think.
Yeah, kind of like what do you have to
Exactly
offer?
that. So it's so important that we decolonize the curriculum so that we can actually change people's mindsets. So that's pretty much, yeah, like decolonizing
Definitely.
the curriculum.
That's amazing. Like, I think, thank you so much for actually breaking it down like this because I feel like you hear it a lot. I think lately more now. And I think the first time I also even heard it was from you, which I thought was, oh, this is actually really interesting and is actually really true. So, I
Thank you.
mean, that's really amazing. So, how would you say, what role can you say, I mean, the fashion ecosystem is pretty big. We have the schools, and then we do have the designers, and then we have let's say Fashion Week and all that. Like, how do you? Okay, so in this case, I think it'll be more focused on the schools. So how do you think they can incorporate? Like, what can they really do to help decolonize the
The
curriculum?
industry? Yeah. So
Yeah.
one thing I always say is that when we get our information, when it like, okay, so Ekuya, let me even just ask you this question. Where do you learn about the fashion industry? How do you keep informed about the fashion industry?
To be honest, through like blogs and
Exactly
articles.
my point. And this is it. So it's the media. The media has such an important role to play in decolonizing the fashion industry, because most people get their information from the media, from books,
Which
from
is really
journal
true.
articles. So if the media are writing more about just if we're being very inclusive about the global fashion industry, then it's difficult for people to say, but I don't know that. No, it's like you will know. Like an example, this morning, I got breaking news that Ricardo Tisci, he's leaving Burberry, and Daniel Lee will be taking over. Exactly. We've all heard about it. So if we're able to publish information such as this, why can't we include the African fashion industry? Why should we wait to include things just like maybe when there's an exhibition or an event, or when or like whenever there's events taking place? We should, or like if there's a collaboration, let's talk about it in general as we do I would say when we think about maybe the global north and think about the industry there, let's be inclusive, because most people find their information from the fashion media. So I feel like, writing about different, not just designers, but influential leaders in this space, having more writers who are African or from an African descent, essentially, who are diverse, that can actually represent the voice of the global fashion industry. That's also very important, because again, if you are not from a background where you don't have the knowledge of that industry, it's going to be very difficult for you to say, oh, actually, can I write about XYZ? It's fundamentally, it's impossible for you to do so. So we also should be looking at hiring people in these spaces as well.
I mean, you're definitely right. I think you're really right, because I feel like that's like the first point of contact for a lot of people, like you did say. So moving on, I know earlier on in the year, in June, the VA Museum, there was like an African fashion exhibition. And I do know you were in attendance. Like, can you please speak on that? Because I think it was a really beautiful way for people to learn more about the brands and African fashion history. How was that experience for you?
No, it was great, because it was really nice to actually see African fashion actually have a space within a museum that is fundamentally globally it's recognized, right? So seeing, designers of people that I know personally, as well, which was also very lovely to see, and seeing everyone's hard work. Also seeing so many people from different backgrounds being able to actually come and see the work of people, and seeing that, because a lot of people often think like African fashion is all about print, but then being able to witness that, there is contemporary stuff, there is streetwear, there are so many different things. There's jewelry, there's footwear, there are photographers, and so many other different aspects of the fashion industry. I think it really opened people's minds up to actually understanding more about the fashion industry. So I think it was like a good opening and a good foundation for people to also understand the history, because they did cover like pioneers in the industry, so like Kofi Ansah and so forth. So it was interesting to see the influences, and how, looking back at maybe 40 years ago, and how designers have been influenced from then till now as well.
That's amazing. Would you say that we would also need more of these kind of exhibitions ourselves, like at home, like as in on the continent?
110%, because I think it's important to note that when you think about the even just people on the continent, a lot of people still don't have any knowledge about this,
Yeah.
right? So it's so important that people have an understanding and that we're also educating our people as well. Because again,
Definitely.
one thing that I often say is, we also have to decolonize our curriculum, because one thing is that a lot of people also do say and admit is you find that on the continent, there are still some curriculums are still also very much Eurocentric as well.
That's really true.
Yeah.
I know this might probably seem like an upside down to like the interview. However, I wanted to know what made you want to start CIAFE, or what made you start CIAFE actually?
Yeah. Where do I kind of begin? So I think that I've always had an interest. Like when I was at university, I had a strong interest in fashion education. And I remember at university, I went to the London College of Fashion, and I wanted to see if I could do a semester in another country, because a lot of people used to do like a semester in a different school in another country and so forth.
Yeah.
And I wanted to go to Ghana because for me it's home. I've been coming to Ghana since I was 5 years old or something. So I was like, oh well, like my grandparents are there. I've got like all my cousins, like all my aunties and uncles, like my dad's siblings, my mum's siblings. So my cousins, like I wouldn't even need my parents to come with me. I could go and then literally live with my grandparents or anyone. So I was like, oh yeah, it's home.
Yeah.
Like I would love to do it. And then I was like, why is there nothing here? I found one place and it was just design. And I was like, no, but this isn't feasible for me because I'm a marketing student. Like, why don't we have any, even if it was a merchandising course or a fashion business course, just in general, it didn't exist. And I was like, let me look at other countries on the continent. And it was kind of the same thing where it was like just design. But then it was also very difficult to find information. So like websites wouldn't work. There were no emails. Emails would bounce, or there were no emails whatsoever. It was like literally Facebook pages. And I was like, there is no way that my institution will allow me to say, oh, I'm going to go and study this here and say, oh yeah, they have a Facebook page. That for them, it's like, no, because again, safety, how do we know, like, who is going to be, taking care of you? Like,
how do we know that you're safe? Like,
how is this legit?
Okay?
Exactly. Like, how is this legit? And I was like, it's true. It's, very, very difficult to say. But so then over time, I mean, as I kept coming to Ghana and just speaking to a lot more people and connecting with people on the continent as well, I realized that there was a lot in terms of the African fashion industry. But again, when it came to just when it came to like design and stuff, it was very much still, just design. There was nothing to do with education. And I was like, I feel like we need to do more, to be really honest with you. We need to do a lot more in this space. And then I think just, through being a lecturer and over time, I just kind of like felt led. I was having more and more conversations with people about fashion education. And then when I was applying to do my doctorate, I realized that, you know what, I want to actually focus on looking at the African fashion education system. So I sent in a proposal to look at how we can innovate the African fashion education system. And that's what I'm working on now for my doctorate. So yeah, and then it kind of just led me to launching CIAFE.
I think CIAFE is really doing an amazing job, first of all.
Thank you.
Exposing us to the different fields of fashion. Because I mean, I feel like people don't even consider something like fashion production,
Yeah.
People don't even really pay attention or actually take fashion writers and fashion bloggers seriously, because I feel like fashion writers and bloggers can actually make or break a brand. Yeah, so I think you're really going to be, and your reports as well. Your reports are also pretty insightful.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. So what would you say is next for CIAFE?
So we are going to be moving into a space where we will be launching the CIAFE Institute. So we will be providing training and professional skills development for people on the continent. So it's really kind of a bit of a shift from what is being done in the schools, but we're really looking at what is missing from the curriculum and continuing with things such as like language classes, leadership programs, again, looking at the aspect of like the history of African fashion, professional skills, and so forth. So yeah, that's next for CIAFE. So watch this space. We'll be continuing to do our research and really encouraging more people to be involved in, writing, publishing, and so forth.
So will this space, do you look to have it on the continent?
So it will be online first, because one thing is that we want to be able to provide education without any borders, because we know that traveling within Africa, is, people think it's like, oh yeah, you just wake up and you're somewhere in an hour. No, like like Africa is huge. It's so huge. I remember like when I traveled from Ghana to Rwanda, it was almost 5 hours, and I was like, I could have done this, like, just not. I could basically go to the UK from Ghana.
Yeah, because that's about like 6 hours. So just like an hour less.
Yeah. Like sometimes we even in the summer period, they even do it in 5.5 hours. So it's interesting to see how, I mean, it's like, it's quicker to get from Ghana to London than it is from Ghana to South Africa.
Yeah.
Just stuff like that, just to give people context.
Yeah.
So again, traveling in Africa is also very expensive for people as well. So these are things that we just really want to bear in mind. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's amazing. So usually on here, I like to play a game of favorites or this or that. So, but then this is going to be the fashion edition.
Sure.
Okay. So I'm just going to ask you like a few questions, and then you just let me know what some of your favorites are, or this or that. So what are your favorite fashion publications?
Oh, do you know what? I just posted something the other day, but I would say like my go-tos are The Business of Fashion. I like Vogue Business. I do like Fiber to Fashion, Industry Africa. Oh gosh, I'm just trying to think. WWD. So yeah, these are like I've got like 12. I did like 12 of my top publications. But yeah, those are the ones that I generally do enjoy, because they cover everything from like the business aspect, the textiles, apparel, and African fashion industry as well.
Amazing. So would you choose a fashion, let's say like an online magazine over like a physical book, like a physical magazine? What do you prefer?
See, I do like physical stuff, but I would say now for convenience, I do like online magazines. But if we're talking about books, then I will choose a physical book any day.
Okay, amazing. Okay, so we're going to go more into, say, certain fashion pieces. So are you more of like a statement earrings type of person, or like very simple studs type of person?
I love statement earrings, yeah. Statement earrings, definitely.
So would you pick dresses over pants, like trousers?
Oh, dresses any day, yeah.
Okay, great. Block heels over pencil heels?
Oh, see,
that's a hard one, huh?
Do you know what? Now I'm in a block heel mood. Like these days, I've been doing a lot of block heels.
Okay, that's amazing. Would you say you over accessorize, or you keep it simple with your accessories?
Oh, I'm very simple, yeah. I hardly even wear necklaces, to be honest.
Oh, actually, come to think of it, yeah, I've actually not seen you.
Seen me, yeah, I don't wear necklaces. Yeah.
That's amazing. Frederica, thank you so much for joining the Changing the Narrative podcast. Thank you so much for your insightful views, and also for what CIAFE is doing. I think it's doing an amazing job with changing our perspective on what fashion education is. And all the best with your future endeavors, and I cannot wait for the CIAFE Institute to launch.
Thank you very much for having me. I've really enjoyed this. I'm looking forward to seeing more. So well done to you on this as well.
Thank you so much.
All right then, take care. Thank you.